If you want to see how good your driver is, put them in an absolute tractor.
Just put him in a steak.
Put him in a steak, sorry, but put him in a steak.
Hello, and welcome to a special mini episode of A Polite Notice, a single-seater podcast. I'm so pleased to welcome our first ever guest of the podcast, Dom Shaw, racing driver with Team Brit, the world's only competitive racing team of all disabled drivers. It's a little bit outside of our wheelhouse. We normally talk about single-seater, but we're excited to get out of that world. And not only that, his car has won their class 3, at the recent Brit Car Trophy. So hello, Dom.
Hello, thank you very much for having me on.
So let's just get right into it. What is your earliest memory of racing cars, things like that?
So my earliest memory of racing cars, so I suppose going go-karting with my dad. We'd go down to a track called Rye House when I was very young, and they had like a track where you just go around in a circle basically. And that's where I first got in a go-kart, I think. And obviously loved the thrill of that. And then you sort of learn to get the skill from there. Then from 9, he bought me my first remote control car. And I still do that to this day. So 20 plus years on. So yeah, I'll compete in British Remote Control Car Association Championships. And I have done for many, many years now. So that's where I've learned my craft from of racing. And then racing real cars is my first ever year this year.
Straight into winning. Easy cruising straight into winning. I guess it's a really good time to ask, how did you get into Brit Car?
So I got into Brit Car through Team Brit. I first approached them in 2021 when I did a track day with them. I went out on the track day and it went really well, but I didn't want it to end. So I was like, have you got any more space for later on in the day so I can go back out? And they said, yeah. So we did. I did some more laps and it went really well. And the driver coach at the time said, that went really well. Have you thought of becoming a driver with Team Brit? And I was like, really? I was like, okay. So I looked all into it and unfortunately there wasn't space at the time. So I couldn't join them then. And then September in 2023, I just woke up one day and I thought, do you know what? If I don't go racing now, I don't think I ever will. You know, when's a good time? So I was like, if I don't do it now, let's do it now. So I messaged the founder, Dave Player, and he said, yeah, there is space. And I was like, right, let's get everything into place then. So I messaged him in September. I went and passed my ARDS test in October. I met the team in November. I got some protective racing gear in December and then signed the contract in January. And then we went racing this year. So very, very tight schedule. But yeah, it all fell into place.
Oh my, how amazing is that to go from no racing to racing in the space of about 4 months? That's amazing. So can you tell us a little bit more about Brit Car? How does a Brit Car race work? I've heard it compared to touring cars, to BTCC before. And, you know, what's a Class 3 car?
So Brit Car Trophy Championship is an endurance championship where we have one qualifying session where I have to set 3 laps minimum, and so does my teammate. We share a car within Team Brit. And then the races you get 2 races of 50 minutes. And in that, you have 1 mandatory pit stop. In the pit stop, you don't have to change drivers if you don't want to. So you can just do it with 1 driver. But if you've got another driver, then you'd swap over in that pit stop.
And how does the class system work in Brit Car?
So the classes are performance-based and aero-based as well. So my Class 3, in our class, we had myself in a BMW 1 Series. There are also Ginetta G40 cars, so like Ginetta Junior cars. And also there were Fun Cup cars in there as well, which was interesting to see as well. So you get a variety within the classes. And then Class 2 is obviously more powerful cars, and then Class 1 more powerful cars again, with a bit more grip to them as well.
So obviously your team, Team Brit, are the world's only all-disabled driver team. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about that, how it works, the kind of dynamics within the team, things like that?
Yeah, so Team Brit is the world's only disabled racing team, which is great. So it's a team of all disabled racing drivers, whether it's a physical disability or neurological. So myself, I've got spina bifida and hydrocephalus. We also have autistic drivers there, ones with ADHD as well. So yeah, it's a wide variety. Team Brit started as a karting team called Kartforce. And then the drivers within Kartforce thought, why don't we try and go real racing, in racing cars? So I can go from car racing to car racing. And they did. And Team Brit has been going ever since, and it's grown into what it is today. So we've got between 6 and 8 drivers, and they've got 2 McLarens, 1 BMW 240i, 1 BMW 1 Series, and also a C1. They also competed in the C1 Championship. So yeah, they've got a wide variety of cars, and the team's growing very nicely.
Very quickly on that note, you might have just given Becca her hope of being a racing driver based off of her experience as well.
Give me access to your McLaren is what we're saying. Let me drive around in your McLaren. I have a driver's license. Provided it's an automatic, I'm out there. I'm going.
All of our cars are automatic, but all the gears are on the steering wheel anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, they're all hand control. Oh, that makes sense.
So I've only got a automatic license, but I still do the gears in the car because it's quicker.
This is why I drive an automatic, because I get very stressed out by gears.
It's a lot to get used to. I mean, that's one of the biggest things for me. I mean, my everyday car is an automatic, so I don't have to think about changing gear or anything like that. It does it for me. Whereas, the race car, it would change gear if you want it to, but that's not the quickest way. You'll lose time by doing that, see your other competitors and things like that, and might not necessarily be the gear that you want. So you need to learn that skill as well, which is something that I've learned throughout the season. So that's definitely something I probably wasn't too good at the start and got very good at towards the end.
You probably saw from my LinkedIn, I come from a slightly clinical medical background. You said hydrocephalus, which is the one where you can't drain CSF properly, so it ends up leaking down the back. Is that right? You have the tube?
So I must admit, I don't, because I experience my own disability, I don't necessarily read up on it as such, which is probably something I should do at some point. But as far as I'm aware, hydrocephalus is like a build-up of fluid in the brain, and the shunt drains that fluid because it doesn't release. Normally, spina bifida and hydrocephalus will go hand in hand because of the spinal damage. So yeah, for me, I've got a programmable shunt. In a way, I've been very lucky. I've only ever had one shunt revision. So yeah, if anything, I think it probably pushes me more having the disability than if I didn't, because I like to prove a point that I can do things. And when people say you can't do that, then I'm normally the one to say, I'll show you how it should be done. I'll show you how it can be done.
I totally get that. When you navigate through the world with a disability, you don't necessarily think about it. And then all of a sudden, when you come up against the barrier because of your disability, you're like, well, that's their problem. That's not mine. So a lot of the time just going off on a tangent, because autism is a social relation condition where you sometimes struggle with social communications. In my job, I talk to people a lot. And throughout my university career, people would kind of comment on the fact that maybe I wouldn't be as great at that and I'd need to work harder at that. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to prove you wrong and I'm going to get really, really good at consultations and consultation skills, because that's what I want to be. I want to be a pharmacist, and this is how I'm going to do it. Lovely. So we don't have to get too deep into your disability if we don't want to. Obviously, it's personal to you, but I'm imagining that you probably have some problems with your mobility in your legs and your ability to kind of feel the pedals and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that impacts your driving?
So for myself, the spina bifida affects the lower part of my leg. Mostly. So I can't feel my feet or toes, and I can't move my feet at all, but I can move my legs. So for short distances, I'll use Canadian crutches, and then longer distances, I'll be in a wheelchair, and longer days, I'll be in a manual wheelchair. And then, did you say about, what was it? The hand controls. So with Team Brit, they've designed their own hand controls. Well, you'd imagine a sports car to have the shifters, so the gear up and the gear down, so flappy paddles. That's where our accelerator and brake is, on a linear pedal. So on the right side, you'd have your accelerator. On the left side, you've got your brake. And then by our thumbs, while you've got your hands on the wheel, that's where you can change up and you can change down. And you can do that on either side of the steering wheel, depending on what hand is the dominant hand.
So, What barriers would you say that you and your teammates have faced as a disabled racing team?
That's a good one. So, disabled drivers have to pass a medical in order to get their racing licence, just to make sure that they're going to be safe to do so. And also, as well, what we have to do is demonstrate that we can get out of the car within 10 seconds. So you've got your full racing gear on, including helmet. You're strapped into the car, and you need to unbelt yourself, get yourself out of the car and be clear of the car within 10 seconds. As long as you can demonstrate that, you can go racing. The constraints to go racing for a disabled driver has loosened as the years have gone on, which is, thanks to Team Brit and other organisations as well. But before, going back 10 or so years, you had to get out of the car within 6 to 8 seconds. So that obviously makes it less accessible, but I'm not saying they've extended it for disabled racing drivers. They've just extended it. Safety wear's improved, cars have improved, and everyone, from there. If we've got any constraints at the moment, with Team Brit, they take all that out because we're there as a racing team to show that disabled people can go racing in motorsport. And not only that, not just turn up and race, but you can compete and you can win. So it'd be no good us going round at the back. That's not what we're about. We're here to show that we can win. We mean business.
Disabled or not, we're still here to compete and we're here to win. So what do you wish people understood about disabled driving or adaptive racing, I guess? And do you think there are any kind of misconceptions about you and your team and your car?
I mean, I guess people back in the day might have thought it was unsafe. There's the stereotype of that. That's what we're here to show. That's what we're here to stand out. Doesn't matter if you've got a physical disability. If you've got the willpower to get up, get yourself in that gym, you've got the passion for motorsport, anything's possible. And if there's something that's stopping you from doing that, that's only a challenge. As in what do we need to do in order to stop that being a challenge and make that easier so that then you can go and do things. So, yeah. I mean, I think, that what Team Brit are doing are definitely proving a point, and it's silent. Anyone that doesn't think that we're showing that we can.
Tie in a question just because we're going down the physical side of things, but I'm actually really interested into. I've had very few interactions with athletes from different backgrounds in my experience, but I would love to know also how does the kind of the high performance mindset play a role into that? I think it's very interesting, especially you're basically just yourself in the car in that moment. So I would love to know, not necessarily tips and tricks, but what goes through your mind? How do you prepare yourself to actually get into that very intense environment? I would love to know someone's take on that as a racing driver.
Give us all your secrets.
Yes, please, because we're struggling here and we would love to know what.
Give us all your secrets to become a successful racing driver.
For me, you've got to believe that you can do it. You've got to believe that you're fast. You've got to believe that you can control the car. I've always, without blowing my own trumpet, I've always known that I can drive. Anything comes good with practice, and I definitely know that I have the determination and stubbornness in order to make sure that I'm good, because at no point in my life have I failed at anything that I've ever done. So I've always wanted to make sure that it was successful. I mean, when you're training, think that someone's training harder. When you're racing, imagine, even if you're winning, you've still got to stay focused. So you've still got to hit those apexes, hit the braking points, not overstep the mark. So always stay focused. Always think that someone could be chasing you down. Someone's training harder, they're going faster, and that will push you on to better yourself. That's sort of the place where I go, whether that's, and I know about it, so it's a healthy space for me to then get the results that I want.
My question from that is, in races like in Brit Car, where there's so many different classes of car going around on the track, and you're never really, I imagine, certain who's around you and from what team with so many people going around, how much information do you get from your team about, okay, you are X seconds ahead of the next car in your class in this position in the overall standings? Like, how much information are you getting from your team?
So ideally, the team will give me information if I ask for it. And if I'm not asking for that particular information, you tend to get left alone in the car so that you can focus. The only time they'll talk to you potentially is if a faster group of cars that are being quite aggressive are going to come up on you. So the team will talk to you then, and they'll talk to you if there's a safety car that's come out or if you need to box. So if you need to come into the pits. And generally on out laps and warm-up laps before the start of a race, you'll check up certain parts of the circuit that you can hear each other. So if you don't respond, then you know that there's possibly a black spot in that part of the track. So then they know not to talk to you because they then know that I won't hear them and it won't look like I'm ignoring them. So yeah, that's good. Yeah, but they must admit the information that you get is good, but they tend to leave you alone to focus and race while you're going around the track.
So you guys won Class 3. Tell us more about that day. How does it feel to win a trophy in your first year of racing? Obviously, what does it mean to you personally? What does it mean to you professionally? Tell us a bit more about it.
So winning the class was totally unexpected. My aim for the year was to bond with the team and to improve my skills. So to be able to win the class was just, surreal. Going into the last round, we won both races to make sure that we secured the championship. Yeah, very, very proud of myself, my teammates and the team. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily sink in there and then. Sort of as you go home, you've got the drive home depending on, and then you wake up the next day and you think, I just won the championship. And then you wake up and you think, I don't want this to stop now. No, I've won it once, I want to win it again. So I just want to keep on racing now until, racing stops or I stop.
That's so lovely. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your teammate, your car mate? I'm assuming you have a co-driver for your car, your pit crew. Tell us a little bit more about the people you work with.
So I had 2 teammates this year. So I started the year with a teammate called Caleb Mudda. He's a deaf racing driver. And then for the last round, he moved up to the 240i for the last round of the series. And Bobby Trundley took his place, partnered me in the last round. So I had, it was good to have 2 different teammates. Someone to compare yourself against, and we look through data as well. So looking at where they're quicker, where I could be quicker, and how you can improve. So you push each other on to get the best out of yourself and the car. So that was always good. The team are amazing. As you can imagine, there's banter, there's a very good level of professionalism as well. And they give us all the tools that we need to go racing. There's no expense spared with that, just to make sure that they're doing the best job they can so that we can do the best job we can. They give you support, they give you advice. Yeah, and they're very, very knowledgeable people. And I've learned a lot from them over the year, for sure.
So we all know racing is a really expensive industry to be in. And obviously when you are a smaller team and you're doing everything yourself, I'm sure making frugal decisions and not crashing your car too often is probably the best plan. How do you guys work in the factory? Do you build your own cars? Do you modify the cars yourself? You said that the team has their own hand controls, things like that. Obviously, I know probably a lot of money probably comes through sponsorships. So if there's any particular sponsors you want to shout out, things like that, feel free.
Yeah, so Team Brit isn't a charity. So it's a corporate team. And therefore, the drivers need to find sponsorship in order to go racing. So I was very lucky to be sponsored by a company called DPP Smart Home and Electrical this year. And I was very lucky to be sponsored by them this year. And they joined me at Brands Hatch, where they enjoyed the hospitality, and we could do a garage tour and all that sort of thing. And he really does like his motorsport and his cars, so that was great. For next season, I am looking for sponsorship again. So if anyone is interested in motorsport or Team Brit or myself, please feel free to get in contact with me through social media, my website or LinkedIn. And I'd be happy to discuss this with you, what opportunities are available.
Obviously, smaller teams have to do everything for themselves. So tell us a bit about the garage. Where are you guys based? How do you go about getting your cars ready for race weekends?
So the team's based in Polborough. They were by the Top Gear track. but the unit they had there wasn't very big. So the team's expanded now with more cars. So to have more cars, you need more space. So they've now moved to in Pulborough, and we're in the winter season now. So the cars are all stripped down, ready to have things replaced. New livery will be put on, no doubt, in the new year, rewrapped. I mean, Team Brit are trying to be as sustainable as possible as well. So the 240i was a write-off to begin with, and they brought it back to be a race car. They've been very successful with that. And then the BMW 1 Series was a reshell. We had a 1 Series before, and unfortunately that one was no longer raceable. So they took the bits that they could from that car and put it into a new one. So what we have, it was a road car, and it's now been turned into a race car from literally this season.
So you're going to have a big livery launch. Can we come? I'm assuming it'll also be at the O2 Arena, lots of flashy lights, champagne, the works. So yeah, if that does happen, can we get an invite to that?
We'll be there to help you make all the TikTok trends as well. We have a great social media person, so she'll be there just to guide you for everything if you need it.
Absolutely, yeah, come along. Don't quite know when it'll be yet, but yeah, when I know, I'll let you know. You can come along and check it out.
I say I live really near to Brands Hatch, so next time you're racing at Brands Hatch, let me know. I will absolutely be there, and I will come and cheer you all on and go, yeah, we know that guy. We know how he is going to win again this year. Right. Who are some of your biggest inspirations in motorsports, in just general, motivational life in general? Is there any drivers that you look up to who've helped shape your journey?
So I follow Formula One. So obviously Lewis Hamilton, Jenson Button, and all that sort of thing, of course. But inspirational wise, you've got Robert Wickens, who had his accident. He's rehabilitated himself, and he's winning races. He's gone back to racing. He's winning racing. He's doing really, really well. So again, he's showing that just because you've got a disability doesn't mean you can't compete. And also Nick Hamilton. Nick, going back a few years, he was in his wheelchair all the time. And then he was like, I need to, I have the ability not to be in this wheelchair all the time. So I'm going to make sure that I'm not. And he's, got the mental strength to build his physical strength up so that he doesn't need the wheelchair at all or any walking aids. He can walk independently by himself now without that. So yeah, they are definitely two people I look up to.
Absolutely. I know for me, as a person with a disability, looking at one of the most successful Formula One racing drivers of all time's brother go through that journey has been really, really inspirational. And I imagine for people with physical disabilities, watching him, overcome those hurdles has been really, really inspiring. So it's really nice to hear. I've got one last question, very open floor to you. Have you got any advice for a young, aspiring, disabled racing driver? And what would you want them to know about getting into motorsports?
If you're thinking about getting into motorsport, do it. Send that email, make that phone call, turn up on their doorstep. If you want to do something, then do it. You live once that we know of, and racing is fun. It's hard work as well. It's not all fun and games. It is hard work, especially with, like I say, finding sponsorship to be able to have the funds to go racing. But once you're in that car, it's brilliant. Any advice, reach out to any of the drivers, reach out to the team. If you want any advice, we're always here to push people on, to put them in the direction that they want to go. Doesn't necessarily have to be circuit racing. It can be whatever you want to do. But, we're always here to help. We're very approachable people, I like to think. But yeah, go-karting, if you're very young, go-karting is a good starting point for anyone at any age to learn the skill of racing. And yeah, go from there.
All right, so that's all the questions that we have for you, Dom. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us. We will make sure that we include all of your social media channels in the description of any YouTube videos or Spotify links that we have. Feel free to reach out to Dom, especially if you're looking to sponsor him, because we really want to support smaller teams and disabled teams here out in the world of motorsport. So thank you so much for joining us. Bye. This has been a mini episode of a Polite Notice podcast, a Polite Notice production hosted by Daniela Stan and Rebecca Jones, featuring Dom Shaw. Research by Eleana, Cheshire, and audio editing and technical production by Alex Vasile.
Does he actually edit those bits, or does he leave it in because you've told him to take it out?